Welcome to the first episode of AHA Exchange. My name is Holly Troy, and I am here speaking with Will Reynolds and Jonah Jensen of Earthwaysjourneys. And they are going to tell us about an event they're having and what Earthwaysjourneys is all about. And I'm really excited because I've known Jonah for, a decade, almost a decade. And I'm meeting Will for the first time right now on this video. Before we dive in, I'd just like to say that AHA Exchange is in interviews with artists, healers, and activists. And what I found is that artists are automatically healers and activists because they're speaking their truth, and they're usually expressing their souls. Healers are artists because they know the art of allowing people's souls to open up, and they're activists because they're helping people be themselves. And activists are healers because they're speaking their truth to the world, and they're artists because they're living from their heart. So first I'm going to introduce Jonah, and Jonah's background in trauma work and ancient healing is the well that he draws from to help others. Having trained with the Colorado School of Energy Studies, the Somatic Experiencing Trauma Institute, the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, as well as Psychopai, did I say that correctly?
Psychopai.
Okay. Incan, Psychopai? Incan, Tibetan, and Aztec elder healers, Jonah offers his skill, passion, and presence from his connection to the spirit of the natural world. He's a wilderness therapy guide, a somatic experiencing practitioner, a biodynamic cranial sacral therapist, a polarity practitioner. He's a registered polarity practitioner, a ceremonialist, and a writer. Personally, I know Jonah as a very strong human being and a very gentle and wise human being. And he has a way of helping people open their hearts by holding sacred and gentle space with them. And he's helped me heal personally. So I'm really happy to welcome him. Thanks, Jonah.
Thank you.
And Will is a gifted ceremonialist, wilderness guide, and astrological counselor. Having trained with the School of Lost Borders, the Animus Institute, the work of Martin Prechtel, and the Colorado School of Energy Studies, to name a few, Will offers his profound compassion, wisdom, and guidance from the direct experience of life's initiations. He is a wilderness therapy guide, an astrological counselor, polarity practitioner, ceremonialist, and musician. Really nice to meet you, Will. And I know a little bit about the Animus Institute. I did some grad school work where we studied, I did some work on Bill Plotkin, and have been wanting to do some work with the Animus Institute. So that's a pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, so hi.
Hey.
So the two of you are working with nature in order to find the depth of our humanity. Yes. I mean, I relate to this so well because I I created something called Sacred Folly probably around the time I started reading about Bill Plotkin. I read Nature and the Human Soul and Wild Mind. And I came up with this idea that if we are authentically ourselves, if we're allowed to be creative and express ourselves from a place of authenticity, that we would want to create a world and sustain our world, create a world that's good for not only people, but for animals and the planet. And that we would want to connect with one another because, well, for me, connection is, I feel like the basic reason why we're alive. Even if we're not connecting with each other as you know, if we're not connecting with people every day, we're still connecting with our environment and our with animals, with plants, with the elements. And your work, the work that the two of you are doing, feels very much in line with that.
Yeah.
So you have a you're holding council next week. Yeah.
Saturday.
And what's your event called?
It's called well, what is it called?
I have it. I love it. It's you're calling it a conversation with place.
Conversation with place.
Yeah, and it's returning to our council.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by that. So you're going to be in a yurt in Lyons, Colorado, and you're going to be on 50 acres of wilderness, this space that what's the landscape like?
It's private land. It's desert. It's a high mountain desert in Lyons, Colorado, and there's a river that flows through it, and right on the edge of the river there's a yurt that people will be able to float in and out of during the day-long workshop.
Beautiful. So I just like it if you guys could talk a little bit about the work, about the holding council in nature. My sense is, and my sense has been for a long time, that we need that connection with nature in order to really experience our humanity. And from my personal experience, I lived in Manhattan for about 20 years, and I was always like, I mean, you experience nature, you experience the nature of the city, but I found, even though I was very creative and active, that I felt like there was something missing, like I needed quiet. And when I found myself, when I would get out of the city, which was pretty rare, my ears would ring for about 2 days. Like I could just hear sound, even if I was in silence, and longed for quiet and longed for nature. And I'm just wondering what your experience with this connection. It sounds like you're creating a profound connection with nature, and helping people to experience nature in a deeper way as well. And so I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess it's easiest to start for me. Like I grew up in a rural environment, and I had a lot of time in nature. And so I realized at some point that I could learn a lot from spending time in nature, and really started to come in contact with more people who are actually like taking it to another level, and specifically with Animus and with School of Lost Borders, with getting groups together to go out and have solo time on some land, and with an intention and with a whole very simple ceremonial process, and utilizing the 4 directions in different ways, and kind of tracking these different maps of wholeness that apply to psychologically to people, but also to the cycles of nature and the seasons and elements and everything. I just, Jonah and I met, we teamed up in a very seamless way. We just sort of have different backgrounds, but a similar supportive energy. And so working together is really easy. I feel like we bring the best out of each other. I would turn it to you.
Yeah, my response to kind of what you were talking about with the silence that you experienced, I guess is a nice sort of segue for the sane mirror, the sane reflection that nature is. Nature doesn't hold conditioning. Nature doesn't really, it's a pure reflection that we can interface with at any time. So it's like this ultimate perfect resource for our being. Our being is perfectly designed to actually resonate with the natural world, the earth, all the elements, heaven and earth. Everything in the natural world is reflecting our deepest health back to us. So part of what I do with people, and when Will and I dance together in these workshops, is that I'm including somatic wisdom in educating people about how to really maximize the interface between their being and the natural world. And there's simple ways to do that, like see and feel at the same time, hear and feel at the same time, smell and feel at the same time, all the senses, and actually letting it land in you in such a way that it actually reorganizes your entire physiology. Not only your physiology, but the directionality of your mind. So your mind will actually start to shift, like it'll do 180 on the way that your mind actually wants to decide how to make decisions, because it's making decisions out of a place of safety,
Out of a place of safety.
Out of a place of known safety. We can get into that more later. We'll talk about neuroception. We'll talk about the polyvagal theory. We'll talk about the triune autonomic nervous system, which is it's a new research on how the nervous system actually works, that Will and I are trained in. We know how this works, and it's really very closely tied to our senses, how we sense our environment.
That sounds wonderful. It sounds very subtle too, subtle and powerful.
Exactly. When you said silence, you could take a moment right now and see if you can hear that same silence. Because when you said that was a memory, but it was here in the moment. It was in the present moment. So if you can you hear it now? If you just kind of remember it, that silence.
Silence.
Yeah. So if you in your mind remember that memory that you had, you were in the city, but then when you were in the city, you felt that silence. Can you connect with that now? Just to play for a second.
can I connect with the silence I felt or the silence of
that you
now?
in the past. Yeah. Can you connect with that?
Yes.
And
It,
so what you would do is you would hear that silence, you would sense that silence, and even know you'd notice what happens in the body at the same time.
it's,
And yeah, and just see what
it's,
happens.
it's like a place of knowing that it's a place of knowing. I feel like that silence where when I would step out of it, I would long to be back to it.
Mhm. So something about that silence, and then when you let it land, it's touching that inner wisdom and knowing
Hmm.
that you already have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
You mentioned something too about nature knows no trauma or doesn't hold trauma. Um, and it brought to mind for the last few years, um, I've I've been walking through grief. I experienced some death and change in my life, and I would walk every day, like on these, just like through nature. And now I ride my bike a lot, and I get so much joy from it. But I had this moment where it was winter, but coming into spring. And so there was like a warm current in the air, even though it was cold. And I, I just decided to send love like out to nature. And there was like a shift in my feeling and from this like just this sadness that I was allowing myself to experience. And then I was like, I love nature's been holding me through this whole thing. And that was basically what I was able to connect with. So I sent love out kind of through my hands and just through the intention of myself. And when the breeze started to come back to me, I could feel the love reflecting.
You feel
Oh, can you guys still hear me?
lost you for a second.
Okay. So what I said was I sent love out to nature because I was so grateful for it, like kind of just, just letting me be. I mean, it was your being in nature, right? And I felt the love come back. So if that makes any sense. I tried to write about it like as it happened, and I couldn't write about the experience. So you bring your somatic work into the council.
It's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
A big part of it.
Yeah. It sounds like it. Do you also bring, Will, this question's for you. Do you bring in some of your astrological work into it as well? Is there any connection with the with that? Just curious.
Well, there is, it's not necessarily something that I plan on, but
Mm-hmm.
Astrology is a really useful way for me to understand all the different polarities and dichotomies, and just in working with people individual, like kind of like taking in the group as a whole. I would probably know, like, what the moon is in that day,
Right.
and this sort of an understanding of different characters kind of helps weave reflection, like a clearer reflection for them in a group setting. But I may not even mention anything that is overtly astrological.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think as you're a practitioner, you're just sort of aware of maybe the phase of the moon or that type of energy.
Yeah, and just Will is a total artist in living language. I've been watching him work in our retreat settings. He's really a gifted verbally, he brings language to life, and that's woven in from what I see of Will's work with the astrological council and all that. It's seamless, it's not overt, but it's being woven in all the time.
Right. Yeah. The vision I'm getting of the two of you working together does feel like a weaving. Like you mentioned music or you mentioned dance. And so I'm imagining, I'm just imagining so much color in my mind's eye of like what it is that the experience of the two of you working together. I'm just imagining this back and forth with the two of you, and then the people who are participating. That it's something that I don't know. I'm seeing almost like a mandala of energy. Like I can sense that is how it will be. And partly I think it's too that I've worked with Jonah, and his ability to hold space is so is like one of his biggest strengths, I feel. And I've always experienced, I guess I have a visual sense. I've always experienced these like swirls of color when I close my eyes. It's just so much energy moving. And I guess I can see that. And I imagine the two of you create this pretty sweet vortex.
Yeah, we're both really comfortable, I would say, with space.
Yeah.
Like even when we interact, I feel like maybe more than most or a lot of people who are able to just to be in silence. And that is a pressure cooker too. Like we're talking about a field, creating a field of where we're comfortable with the space in between, right? That we're comfortable with silence. And from where I come from, that silence is supremely intelligent, right? So we're working with that silence, and all the information is there in the field, That's a strength of ours. We can wait and listen and know the right time to ask questions or track someone's experience with them. That kind of brings me into biodynamics. I'm trained in the craniosacral biodynamics, and that is really about relationally, human to human, and with the same teachers that I'm trained with to some degree. And it's about making connection with someone so that they're contacted energetically and they
Right.
all have space. So when that happens, that's actually sending a very clear signal that there's safety there, because that person is not being abandoned, and they're also not being invaded by us.
Yeah.
That's our intention. And so when we do that, the health comes forward to meet us, and then we're witnesses to that health. So I like two things that I get excited about is precision for me and allowing. So precision is seeing what's there, tracking what's there, somatically, biodynamically seeing what's there, and with precision, and then allowing that experience to happen. Because it's in our naturality that is where our gifts are. That's in our safety. Our system can rest enough for the health to come forward, and then we feel good. But it's when we feel good is when our purpose starts to arise, because we feel safe, we feel contacted, we feel held, we feel loved enough, we feel protected enough to come forward. It's like a flower that has the right gardener, in the right container. And it's all very taken care of. So that's our goal to do with the people that come. And so they're getting that interface with us, and then they're going outside and they're getting that with nature. It's not very often that a lion's going to attack you.
Right, that's true.
You're
That's
actually going to be in danger out there. That is part of nature, but most of the time, in my opinion, we're totally safe out there.
mhm.
So that's a whole other thing, but you're going from safety to safety, and that interface with the natural world is so powerful when you have the skills. And you're coming back to hang out with Will and I, who are holding that container of safety. We're doing our best to have that intention.
It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful intention. I've experienced that safety with you in with cranial sacral therapy and just meditating and being in your classes, um, just realizing the healing power of presence.
Mhm.
You know, you have that. There's that a gift of being present, and I think that is one of the things that is hard in modern day life. Is we can get scattered and um, before we know it, like 3 years have gone by and you're barely present for any of it. And I think that presence is a huge gift, um, and it is healing. And presence is, I think it's a form of love, which is also healing. And so,
Relationship,
yes.
what a lot of what Will and I do. And, with Will's work with Animas and the School of Lost Borders, there's a whole map of consciousness and awareness that Will knows. Maybe you could talk a little bit about. And that's different than what I know, because I don't have all that training that Will has with Martine and School of Lost Borders and Animas. I'm going to go study with School of Lost Borders in August to have a little bit more of that. And he's going to study a little more somatic, maybe, so we can kind of, know that other side a little better. But I'm interested if you're open to maybe talking about some of the maps of consciousness that Will is talking about with that. And then I have maps of consciousness in the SE cranial world.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been seeing it lately. It's like there's these two maps that we're both holding that are totally a perfect fit, actually.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about the maps of, I would love to hear about the maps of consciousness. I think that um, it just, yeah, I'm just getting this sense that the knowledge that the two of you hold are it's very complementary. And yeah, I'd love to hear more, Will, about your maps.
Well, I think Jonah and I, it all came together last summer with the two of us, and the two of us were both looking to sort of step out into the world and start to give more of the gifts around these things that were starting to show up in our lives. And I found that, I'm going to wait on that maps thing. I'll get to it in a second.
Did you guys meet last summer, or have you known each other for longer than that?
We've known each other for a few years, but it was last summer that Jonah and another friend of ours held a workshop at the same area where we're planning this one coming up. And I went to that as a participant and also felt very called to sort of step in a leadership role and hold space for people. And I feel that that Jonah and I both sort of saw the gifts in each other and kind of helped expand those a little bit more. I think that's part of, the gift that we give each other, but also that the whole part of this work that we're offering to other people too, is just how to help guide them in this process, which is wholly individual to each person, but we're helping them, helping everybody formulate intentions and questions, and really kind of see them to the best of our abilities, and then sort of remembering that we're only the sidekick to nature, in the sense it's not like we're here to give them something that they don't have, and a new thing that they can take home with them and everything. But it's more, I think you get to the point of sort of needing to find that silence, like, and that also has to do with stripping away parts, and that's really the one of the things that I got out of the initiatory work with School of Lost Borders and these vision fast ceremonies, is that it kept coming up that in our culture there's a tendency to sort of fill space, and that is with relationships, with media. Just there's this busyness thing, and then it's a good thing, and so the whole thing is go alone out into nature and fast. So
Yeah.
you're stripping away things, and that's what we're doing. Is like there's an aspect of that in what we're doing, in a mini version, so it's working to kind of slow down and experience the essence of ourselves and each other, and it's acknowledgement that nature is the foundation of everything that we create. That nature is the root of culture. It's the root of what we need to strengthen in order to really strengthen our humanity. So so this is your first podcast type thing, and I want to hear more about what's drawing you to this work. Just to reverse it for a second, I think it'd be interesting.
What's drawing me to want to speak with people like you? Well, I feel that there are so many people out there doing good things, and we are healers, and we are artists, and we are activists, and I'm trying to open a conversation so that we know we're here. So many of us feel alone and isolated with what we're interested in, and just like, I'm really excited talking to the two of you right now. It's just like I feel like my brain synapses just being like, yes, I have so much gratitude just to talk to you, and then also would love to do ceremony with you as well. And I know that if I'm feeling a certain way, like feeling like I want to connect with people who are exploring the world in a different way than how we're kind of the status quo, or how we're told we're supposed to be. And I think that's there are more people than we realize, because so many of us walk around trying to fit in to a world that doesn't, to a society that doesn't honor humanity, even though we're humans. We're in this kind of and at the same time we have, we're part of it, but I feel like we're kind of hidden, and it's time to not be so hidden.
Yeah. So what you're saying really resonates with one of the foundational intentions that I feel that we both bring to this, which is that every we were talking about this a little earlier, and it's similar to what you're saying, in that we all are teachers because
Yes.
we're all unique. And this is something we could talk about. Every tree is unique, every animal is unique, and every soul is unique too.
Well, and if we have an ecosystem that's diverse, it's a healthy ecosystem. And if we have, people who are unique, we have a healthier culture.
Yeah. And relationally, if we're able to hold each other in a way that's allowing and permissive and kind, and in that way the system gets recognized as it is, and then the purpose can actually, the unique unfolding of that being can actually start to happen. So
Yes.
just through the witnessing and the contact and the space and the presence, it can actually birth, to me, it's revolution. That's the activist side of me. Revolution. And
Yes.
what happens is when each one of us have the container, have each other, the relationships to actually rise into our power. So what does it take to find our power? It takes being able to, for me, it takes being able to feel our anger fully, because the anger is clarity. It's the amount of contact that we have with our experience, which creates that is the container for the transformation, for our purpose that we were born with to arise in and take place in the world, take our seat in the world with what our gifts are. So in a way, Will and I are there saying, I believe in you fully. And we're holding, like, the health is never lost, which is a biodynamic principle. And for me, I'm holding that biodynamic principle with the somatic maps of consciousness, which is sensation, it's imagery, the five senses, it's the body, the instincts and impulses, the affect, and the mind. When that map of consciousness gets held in presence, whether you're outside or you're with someone else, what happens is there's a transformation. Things actually start to move and be held, and then something new can arise. But though any part of that consciousness that doesn't get held in presence stays locked up. So this is a birthing ground for something new to arise. And in that's the revolution. That's radical.
It is radical, and at the same time, it just feels it's so natural.
Right.
And the fact that something that's so natural is radical it says something.
Hey, it says a lot, right?
Yeah.
Naturality is where our innate gifts were. There's an indigenous story about a grandmother and grandmother being in the womb of a baby is in the womb, and there's a grandmother and grandfather, and they're blowing the gifts into the baby. And those gifts are there, but you need enough container and safety and be able to rest enough. It's almost like the yin, not inversion, but the yin surrender of safety that a lot of us haven't had, especially those of us that have had a lot of trauma in our life.
Right.
It takes that level of settling for the power the potency to arise. And that's a biodynamic thing. But it's a life thing. It doesn't matter, biodynamic, whatever, it's just a word. But it's with life coming forward, finally.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It gives me the chills, and at the same time it makes me realize, coming out here and living very close to nature or in nature, especially compared to where I was. I've retreated quite a bit, and I spend so much time either like in the woods by myself and in quiet that there's so much of the trauma I've experienced in my life feels like, okay, it's okay. I feel like I'm coming forth again. Like there's something rising in me, and I needed to let everything ground and move, and then move. But I had to have that grounded safety first before it could move.
Then it moves on it by itself.
Yeah.
You have to move it, right?
It's exactly, it's like all I did was slow down.
Right.
And then things started to move, and I didn't have to push it.
Yeah, I was joking around with a friend about, that phrase Godspeed, when he's Godspeed. And I just randomly, I was like, God's slow. As she walked out the door, God's slow. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's time slows down and space spreads out with presence.
Yes.
And all these different dimensions that are here become apparent and revealed. And that's exciting because you see all these dimensions that it's a flower that's coming forward, and you're doing the work right if all of the people that are in the yurt with us are teaching us. Right? If that's how I feel like if I'm channeling, like I'm channeling my wisdom or anything like that, then something's off. It's
right.
about the group dynamic and the field and everyone rising forward, and we can start to actually sense the presence and the health in the field.
When you're talking about the field,
Right,
can you talk about that a little more?
Yeah, the field is how you can sense coherence.
Ecosystem.
Yeah, I'll let Will take it on after me for sure. I'll probably say it in a different way.
Yeah.
But from a biodynamic, I sense it more as a coherence, and it's a subtle awareness. It's an energetic awareness. So if I'm tracking a field through somatic awareness, I can tell when someone's tapping into health, which is we call blueprint, or conditioning, which we call imprint. And it has a frequency. And so when someone's moving in and out, we can pause them at a certain moment of health or imprint, and then track the rest of the group. And that they'll actually start to harmonize with whatever is going on. And then the whole room will actually start to resonate to a deeper level of health. So it's not biodynamics in an individual way, it's biodynamics as a group. And then, of course, nature is a perfect sounding board for health in a biodynamic way. So it's perfect. But I want to hear Will's. I'd love to hear Will's explanation of this too.
Well, I started to think of the field relatively recently as, and I think what I'm referring to here is what Jonah is referring to as health. When the field starts to resonate in a healthy way, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, the sort of gifts just arise out of people, and those gifts they're not the way we think of gifts per se, but maybe it's like the unique character of a person, but it's sort of becoming aware. I've become aware that there's something very ancient about the group field when it is in a place of health. It's hard to put one's finger on, but you could say safety is one aspect of it. And within that safety, each individual, there's something goes on, a process is going on inside of them where certain things they may not have let people see that they think are bad, or something, you know, will arise because of that. And they're allowed to be witnessed going through that process, whether it be like, you know, emotional or whatever it is. Like there's something in that field that for me personally, I recognize that simply understanding the importance of creating that field in it as often as possible with a group of people is incredibly healing. I had sort of thought of it as like field of dreams, you know, because like if you create it, you build it, they will come. I'm not sure exactly if that's completely relevant.
So when the two of you were talking about the field and when it's health, and you were mentioning when it's healthy in this place of safety, the word that came to mind for me was trust.
Yeah.
And I was also actually going, I'm feeling so much more relaxed than I was when we first started this, and I was trying to figure out this technology, and now I'm talking to you guys and I feel so different than I did 20 minutes ago or whatever it was, like, so thank you, because I feel very relaxed and kind of and buoyant. And we're talking on computers, and I know that when you're in the presence of people, in a live presence, that the experience is just different. It's way more profound because the energy it's right there. Or that's my experience when I'm actually face to face with people. And so I can imagine that, like, I'm feeling great right now. If I was experiencing that field physically in the physical presence of the group, that it would be an even a whole different experience, a whole other experience.
And my whole system lights up when you talk about trust and safety. It's just like inside, I get so excited because to me, it's the core of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
If we feel safe, then everything comes from there. If we can find that truth and that trust, then it's done. You know, the healing's happening. So, and then it's just watch the beauty. You know, it's beautiful. The thing about too with all the research with how the nervous system works, we through neuroception is the way we sense our surroundings, and it's unconscious, and it can become a conscious process, which is kind of what we do. It's both, but that's when we sense safety or not in our environment. So we're picking up cues off of each other all the time through the social nervous system, which sends a message to the vagus system, the polyvagal theory. It goes to the vagal system through all of our physiology, all of our organs, everything. And it loops back up again to the brain. So we're constantly getting a feedback loop around whether or not we're safe. So that's a really interesting thing about nature, is that when we start to get comfortable with nature and we can use our somatic awareness in nature, we're constantly getting a heavy dose of a safe, like, good feeling. And it can really rewire our whole system. You know, it can rewire our whole system, and it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And we can come back into the environment of group with that sort of health, and then we're all lit up, and then we're recognizing. And then there's another feedback loop happening. So it's just like health, it feeds off of health. And also trauma kind of feeds off of more trauma. So when someone's kind of in a traumatic state, our system is seeing that and also reflecting it back to them, which isn't necessarily what we want. We want to help them see where the safety is. So if someone's in a, going through an experience, it's okay to go through it some with a healthy field and healthy confidence. But then at a certain level, okay, look around. What do you notice? Can you see Will's smiling face? And they can look at him and get an impression of someone who is safe and grounded. And that's going to start to thaw the ice of the trauma. So it's a process of weaving in and out of activated states, fight or flight, freeze states, into states of health.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing kind of settles a little bit more, and then back. And then the next wave of the polarity of the contraction and expansion of reality starts to happen. It's like, don't worry about bringing up all your issues. They're going to come. It's not like, we're not just going to focus on what's not wrong and be in the health. That doesn't last forever, as we all know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the field, the grief's going to show up, right? And the anger within the field of health and safety, which is the only way, in my opinion, really, that it can transform.
Well, from what I'm hearing, if you're in a field of safety and trust, then if you are experiencing grief or experiencing anger, and knowing that it's safe to experience that, then it can move and transform. Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the field is stronger. The field, we're still talking about the energetic coherence.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually a literal, there is an evenness, a rhythm, frequency of the natural world. We are nature.
Yes.
We are nature, and we are the earth responding to what's happening. I feel like the earth is taking herself back through us. I feel that is true. We are nature. And some of us are awakening to the fact of the lack of reciprocity, the lack of give and take through, basically, it's through itself. It's a reorganizing, a rebalancing, I kind of lost my train of thought, but
it's okay. I think you that's pretty intense. Yeah.
So I feel like, if all we did was just get together a group of people and just like go walk around the land, like there would be a lot of good energy and healing going on anyway. So what we're taking it a step further, which is acknowledging that fact and then bringing it to each individual and the group process, and it's sort of like leveraging the good supportive energy in general, and then trying to help people walk away with more of an experience of that conversation, and we're calling it conversation with place, which is something that has occurred to me more recently, and I have to give credit to this author named Martin Shaw. He's a great storyteller and author. But basically, he's talking. We're suddenly a globalized world and connected through technology all over the planet. But there's this idea of bringing ourselves back into a very specific local relationship, so that we start to acknowledge the oak tree on the corner. We start to pay attention to the way that the clouds get stuck on that one mountaintop, or we even get to know like the homeless person who's always on the corner. Like we start recognizing the specifics of our environment, and that environment awakens with that recognition. And I feel like we awaken too when we recognize the many, many beings around us. So there's an aspect of that conversation that we're bringing into this specific time, because I think there is some truth to the fact that the spirit of nature needs us to witness the beauty. There's some purpose for us in that, and that can only be done through witnessing the specific, witnessing the individual beings, and really appreciating them. So that's another part of it, another part of the aspect. But it's in our group too, like with the people. So I see it most of all as a remembering of something that we know how to do, and it's so natural to us that we wouldn't even know what to say. We just know that when we're there, we're experiencing something timeless and something innate in our being. So this is what comes to mind with what you were talking about.
Yeah, and purpose, like what comes to me after that is purpose is the fact that we know we belong. And we don't know we belong just through our mind, you know. We know that we belong, so it's so multidimensional, and that we belong to a place. And then when we know that we belong inside and out, that's when the health starts to show up too. To a place, we're back in relationship with a place. You know?
There's I'm noticing the two of you are using a lot of like rewords, like remembering, recognition, reciprocation, and what started to come to my mind when Will was talking about recognizing and taking the time to notice the oak tree, the person that's always on the corner. What I started to think of was that there's then a mirror back to you. So the more you notice like what's happening, the more you notice yourself in the place that you're in, the more you notice everything around you, the more you yourself are recognized. I guess this one.
You got it.
And I think
there's so much beauty in that, and the power of gratitude. You know, gratitude is such a powerful thing. It's not mental. Gratitude is somatic.
Yes.
So when we're giving thanks, you know, when we're praying and we're showing appreciation and we're giving gratitude, that feels good. And we just through gratitude, we do a lot of this in our work with the groups. Sometimes it's the first thing we do is we drum and do gratitude, but when we do that, that actually already starting to build resonance, because you're actually getting into relationship with the natural world, with your place, and you're harmonizing with it. And then from that harmony, from that resonance, that's how we make decisions. That's how we navigate our life, hopefully. But that's a very ancient way. It's not just, I would be grateful. No, it's so deep, so profound, this wisdom of gratitude. Shifts everything. And then the biodynamic process, it can show up just from that. It'll show up. You just start giving thanks, and then you feel like grateful, and then you're connecting with the sky or the sun or whatever. All of a sudden the health is starting to show up. So you're already there. You're already starting to heal.
What's the most surprising thing about the work you do?
I think what is always surprising for me is that sometimes in anticipation of what we plan to do or what we hope to achieve, once the process really begins, it carries all of us. And so, I'm continually surprised at the sort of grace that shows up um, once I can really settle into that. And I think that what that is as a ceremony, or as a ritual. Ideally, the ritual is a form that holds all of us, that holds our forms. And when we tap into that, I'm always really, really grateful for that, because it sheds a lot of the illusions of my own ambitions or whatever.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
It relaxes. For some reason, dignity comes up for me. I love to see, I get charged. I don't know, I have this fiery part of myself that I love to see people's fire show up. I love to see their dignity. I think a lot of us have been robbed of dignity, of our dignity, through this journey. And I love to see it show up. And it doesn't have anything to do with me, ultimately, like what Will's saying. But I'm surprised by it, and I just guess it's more of a love. But it's shocking to see how when someone feels their own dignity, and when they feel their own dignity, then there's love. It's love. So you can be angry, you can have grief, you can have all this stuff going on. And then once you tap into your health, you'll feel your dignity. Once you know that you belong, you'll feel it. It's, it's indigenous. It's natural to us. Maybe indigenous is not the best word, but it's natural. Dignity is natural. And then that's like the beginning. Then we can act. And that's my fiery, like the revolution part of my life. is the dignity. And then now what's next? Now what do you have to say?
Right.
So that's exciting for me.
Grace and dignity, it sounds like power and revolution. I'm really excited about this gathering, about the council.
It's so fun.
I feel transformed just from this conversation right now. Like, just so different than I did, whatever, an hour ago. And so grateful for what you guys are doing and for taking the time to talk to me. It's just been, I just feel excited, and like I said, buoyant. I feel like my cells are light, and we know we're made of light, and they feel like they're on, I like how you are both talking about seeing people in their health, no matter where they're at, the health is inside and just needs that space to move, so that then people have the grace to experience that, and then the dignity of their health. And
space is such a key word.
Yeah.
Where you're viewing from, because we're always viewing each other from our mind.
And
the mind is putting things in places and categorizing and judging. And you just drop your awareness down a notch here to your heart, and then down to your belly. This is from Jonah and Chitty, the energy school we studied at. But it's, if you view each other from there, it's an instant shift. It's instant.
Yeah, I think I started up here, but I definitely feel here. I feel in my heart right now.
Yeah,
good. So thanks.
Over the computer.
Yeah, it was a little mind frazzle.
I feel closer to Will too. I feel closer to everybody.
Yeah, I do. I feel, and yeah, I wanted. I'm really grateful. You guys aren't too far away, so.
I'm gonna hang out now, and now this is the field where it's creating the field is being created.
Yeah.
Respect and safety, and then then it starts to get interesting. Maybe we should start the interview now.
Yeah.
Right. I know, right?
Yeah. We should restart. Let's just restart.
That's the
Yeah.
computer.
And all of our nervous systems have actually settled enough to be on.
No, there's a lot of you guys shared a lot of beautiful stuff, and I think what is powerful is, I think in the beginning we were all like a little wound up trying to just make sure everything was working, and then you see where we're at now.
Yeah.
So there's a shift that you can see and feel.
It's so good for us to talk about it, to be in a situation to be kind of forced to talk about it, and together. I'm feeling lots of growth in myself, just watching myself respond. And
I know. Yeah, and this is my first time, so I'd love to continue talking with you guys about this work and about the work I'm doing too. But I can just see it expanding, like a bit. And like I was saying, I'm doing this because I realize I know a lot of people who are healers and artists and activists, and those three things, they go together, and the world needs to know.
We're all doing similar work.
Yeah.
It's just inevitable.
And I feel like the world needs what you guys are doing right now. So I want everyone to know how to find out about your work. And
before we do that,
I'm
going to read a little poem.
Oh, that'd be great.
It's really short, but I heard it today, and it helped me kind of remember. It helped get the field going for me a little bit.
Okay.
I'll read it, even though Jonah just went to cough and get a tissue. And I will say, to start with, it's by an anonymous native elder, but it's from this book called The Heart Aroused, Poetry and the Preservation of the Soul in Corporate America by David White. That's spelled Whyte. He's a great poet. Anyway, this is a translation of a native elder. All right. Stand still. The trees ahead and the bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. So, yeah, just a good way to end it.
Yeah, so beautiful. And so what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. just closed my eyes and listened. It felt good.
Poetry is so good.
Yeah. I wrote a poem the other day. I went mountain biking in Sedona, and it was the breeze was blowing, and it was just, I felt like I was transported into this peaceful place. And I remembered it because it's really short. It's like a haiku, and it goes, notice your skin, notice the air on your skin, notice your face smiling. So next week you guys are having your council, and it's in Lyons, Colorado. And how can people connect with you so that they can learn more or join you?
They can just log on to earthwaysjourneys.com and go to the events page, and there's they can just click on the calendar, and they can just pay right there, and they're signed up.
Fantastic.
And there's a Facebook page, an event page.
And it's the same, like you just put in look for Earthwaysjourneys on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll include that when I make this, when I release this as well. I'll type it out as well.
We love conversations, so when people want to post things that they're feeling or interested, just builds the energy. It's good.
Yeah, you guys have a Facebook page that's Earthways Journeys, where people can pop on and talk.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up tonight. It was so beautiful talking to both of you. So wonderful to meet you, Will. I am looking forward to meeting you in person, and just excited to experience journey with both of you guys. Council, ceremony, and just connection. It's awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Holly.
Yeah,
thanks for what you're doing, and your vision here feels really good.
Yeah, I'd love to talk again. I'd love to speak again soon, and hear how the council went.
That's a good idea.
Sounds good.
Thank you both. Namaste. Bye.
Bye.